Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in life when the same people who once broke you begin to realize what they lost. The same hearts that turned away from you begin to remember your worth. The same eyes that overlooked you now search for you. Here's the truth. You've already healed. You see, once you've walked through the fire and learned to stand on your own feet, no apology, no regret, no longing can pull you back into the pain you've outgrown. Healing changes your vision. Healing doesn't just close your wounds. It opens your eyes. You start to see that what you lost was never your destruction, it was your redirection. They regret losing you now because they finally see what they once took for granted. They see your glow, your peace, your power. They see you moving differently, not out of bitterness, but out of wholeness. You no longer chase closure because you became the closure. You stopped replaying what hurt you and started creating what heals you. There was a time you would have run back, trying to explain yourself, trying to fix things, trying to prove your worth. But now, you've learned that peace is louder than explanations. You've learned that silence can be the most powerful response. You've learned that walking away doesn't mean weakness. It means wisdom. So when they come back with their regrets, you can smile, not because you're cold, but because you've grown. You've outgrown the need to be chosen by those who couldn't handle your value. You've outgrown the version of yourself that settled for less than respect, less than love, less than truth. You healed not just from what they did, but from who you became trying to hold on. You stopped shrinking to fit into spaces that were never designed for your spirit. You stopped begging for understanding and started building your peace. That's why they regret losing you, because the version of you they knew no longer exists. Now you walk with grace, you speak with clarity, you love with discernment. You've turned your pain into power and your scars into stories. You no longer seek revenge, you seek purpose. You no longer seek validation, you seek peace. So let them regret, let them replay every moment they took for granted. Let them wish they had treated you better. Keep rising, keep glowing, keep moving forward with gratitude, because your healing isn't about them, it's about you reclaiming your life. You finally heal, you don't need them to say, I'm sorry. Your peace says it for them. Your strength says it for them. Your progress says it for them. You've already healed, and that's the victory. There is something powerful, something sacred that happens when you finally start to heal. Healing isn't just about moving on from what hurt you. It's about seeing life with a new set of eyes. It's about awakening to truths that pain once blinded you from. It's about realizing that the storm didn't come to destroy you. It came to cleanse you. Healing brings clarity, and clarity changes everything. For so long, you might have walked through the darkness, questioning everything. You questioned your worth, your purpose, your decisions. You questioned why certain people left, why things didn't work out, why life felt unfair. Pain has a way of blurring our vision, of making everything feel heavy and uncertain. But healing restores your sight. It helps you see not only what happened, but why it needed to happen. It's like the fog finally lifting after a long storm, and for the first time, you can see the path that was hidden all along. When you are broken, your emotions run the show. You react instead of reflect. You hold on because letting go feels like losing. You chase understanding from people who were never capable of giving it. But when you heal, your emotions no longer control you. They guide you. You begin to respond instead of react. You start to understand that not everyone deserves access to you. You stop asking, why did they hurt me? And start saying, thank you for the lesson. Healing brings a sense of peace that confusion could never give. You begin to understand that some relationships ended not because you were unworthy, but because you were evolving. Some doors closed not because you were rejected, but because you were being redirected. You start to recognize that not everything that falls apart is a loss. Some things break open so you can finally breathe, finally grow, finally become who you were meant to be. When you heal, you start seeing yourself differently. You no longer define yourself by your pain. You no longer let your past dictate your potential. You stop identifying with the broken version of yourself and start embracing the renewed one. Healing helps you realize that you were never meant to stay wounded. You were meant to rise from what wounded you. That's clarity, knowing that the pain was not your identity, it was your initiation into strength. And then clarity begins to extend outward. You begin to see people for who they truly are, not who you wish they were. You see motives, patterns, energy that you once ignored because love blinded you. Healing sharpens your discernment. You stop romanticizing red flags. You stop excusing disrespect. You stop settling for crumbs and calling it love. You see clearly now that peace is priceless, and anything that costs your peace is too expensive. Clarity also shows you that you can love someone and still let them go. You can forgive someone and still choose distance. You can care deeply and still know that closeness is not always healthy. Healing gives you the strength to set boundaries without guilt. It gives you wisdom to understand that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. You start to see that your energy is valuable. Not everyone is meant to have access to it. As clarity grows, you also start to see your own power. You realize that you are not defined by what others did to you. You are not the version of yourself that pain created. You are the version that healing revealed. You stop seeking validation from others and start validating yourself. You stop waiting for closure from someone else and start giving it to yourself. You stop trying to rewrite the past and start rewriting your future. Healing brings clarity about time, too. You understand that rushing the process only delays the growth. You realize that some seasons require stillness. You accept that everything unfolds exactly as it should. There's a calmness that comes when you stop forcing and start flowing. You no longer chase outcomes. You trust divine timing. You no longer cling to control. You allow life to unfold with grace. Clarity teaches you to stop looking back with regret. You start to see that every disappointment was preparing you for something greater. Every heartbreak was shaping your capacity to love deeper, wiser, stronger. Every delay was developing your patience. Every betrayal was teaching you how to stand alone. And when you look back now, you don't see mistakes. You see lessons. You don't see loss. You see alignment. You don't see endings. You see beginnings in disguise. When healing truly takes root, your mind becomes quieter. The noise of the past fades. The opinions of others lose their power. The chaos that once consumed you becomes background static that no longer moves your spirit. You wake up with gratitude instead of resentment. You walk with confidence instead of fear. You make decisions from wisdom instead of wounds. What clarity does, it simplifies what once felt complicated. It gives you peace where there was once confusion. Healing also helps you see love differently. You no longer equate love with pain. You no longer chase what's unavailable. You understand that real love doesn't confuse you, drain you, or make you doubt your worth. It nurtures you, grounds you, and grows with you. Clarity helps you stop seeking love as a way to fill a void, because healing filled it already. You now know that love is not meant to complete you. It's meant to complement you. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about clarity is that it brings you back to yourself. You rediscover the parts of you that pain buried. You find joy in your own company. You start dreaming again. You start believing again. You remember that you were always enough, even when others failed to see it. Healing brings you home to your peace, your purpose, and your power. So yes, they may regret losing you. They may look back and see how valuable you truly were. But healing has already given you something far greater than their regret. It's given you clarity. You no longer need them to see your worth because you see it now. You no longer need their apology because you've made peace with the past. You no longer need their presence because you've found presence within yourself. Healing brings clarity, and with clarity comes freedom. The freedom to release, to rebuild, to rise. The freedom to live without bitterness, without confusion, without fear. You begin to walk differently, think differently, and love differently. Because once you've healed, you no longer see through the lens of pain. You see through the lens of peace. That clarity will guide you to everything meant for you. There comes a moment in life when the people who once took you for granted finally wake up. They start to see what they lost. They remember your loyalty, your kindness, your consistency, your love. They replay the moments when you stood by them, when you gave more than you received, when you carried the relationship while they only contributed comfort. and now they regret losing you. Here's the truth you must never forget. Their regret is not your responsibility. You are not obligated to ease the weight of their conscience. You are not called to fix the pain that comes from their choices. Regret belongs to them, not to you. It is the echo of their actions returning home. It is the natural consequence of what happens when someone mishandles something sacred. You didn't cause their regret, they did. And because of that, it's not your burden to carry or your duty to heal. For a long time, you might have been the one who overextended yourself, trying to make people see your worth. You gave chance after chance, hoping they would appreciate your presence. You explained your heart to those who were committed to misunderstanding it. You carried guilt for things that were never yours to carry. Healing has taught you something powerful. You can love deeply and still walk away. You can forgive completely and still not return. You can have compassion and still choose distance. Regret is their teacher, not your invitation. It is the mirror that forces them to face themselves, the version of them that didn't appreciate what they had until it was gone. Let them sit with it. Let them learn from it. You've already done your part. You gave love, you gave effort, you gave truth. And when it was no longer honored, you gave yourself permission to leave. That was your growth. Now their regret is their growth. You see, the mistake many people make is believing they can play with hearts and face no consequence. They think your forgiveness means access. They think your silence means permission. They think time will make you forget how they made you feel. But healing changes everything. Healing doesn't make you bitter. It makes you wiser. It teaches you that closure isn't about going back. It's about understanding you no longer have to. When someone regrets losing you, it means they've finally realized what they couldn't see before. But don't confuse their regret with genuine change. Sometimes regret is just nostalgia dressed as repentance. Sometimes people miss the comfort you gave, not the respect they failed to give. Sometimes they miss the way you made them feel, not the way they made you feel. That's why it's dangerous to let regret pull you back into the same place you prayed to escape. Regret is supposed to teach them that love isn't guaranteed, that you can't mistreat someone and expect them to stay forever. That good hearts have boundaries too, that once peace replaces pain, access is denied. That's the lesson life teaches when someone loses someone real. And you are not meant to interrupt that lesson out of guilt or sympathy, because the moment you do, you rob them of their opportunity to grow. Don't feel sorry for the people who lost you when you were nothing but good to them. Feel sorry for the version of yourself that tolerated what you didn't deserve. That's the one who needs your compassion. That's the one you should nurture now. The one who kept forgiving, kept hoping, kept showing up even when it hurt. Regret belongs to them. Healing belongs to you. When they come back with apologies, with tears, with stories about how they've changed, listen, but don't lose your clarity. You can acknowledge their regret without reopening the door. You can wish them peace without sacrificing your own. You can appreciate their honesty without giving them another chance to break you. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it means release. You are not here to make anyone comfortable with their own mistakes. You are not responsible for their emotional aftermath. Everyone must face the consequences of their actions. That's how maturity develops. That's how accountability grows. You've already carried enough. Their guilt doesn't belong on your shoulders. Regret is a heavy teacher. It whispers in the quiet moments. It visits at night when there's no distraction. It reminds people that the love they took for granted won't always wait. And though you might never see it, trust that the same people who dismissed you are now remembering you. They're thinking about the messages they didn't answer, the effort they didn't make, the way they made you question your worth. And yet, that reflection is not your assignment. It's their awakening. There was a time you would have wanted to help them through it, to explain to comfort, to make things right. But you've learned that your peace is more valuable than playing healer to those who broke you. You don't need to rush in and save them from their regret. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let them sit in it, because growth only happens when people are left to face the consequences of their choices. them feel the silence they once gave you. Let them experience the distance they once created. Let them understand the emptiness of a space that used to be filled with your light. That's not revenge, that's reality. It's not punishment, it's balance. The energy they put out finally returns to them. That's how life works. And as they carry the weight of their regret, you continue to carry the light of your healing. You keep moving forward. You keep building peace. You keep choosing yourself. Because your journey isn't about proving a point. It's about protecting your progress. You don't need them to acknowledge your worth anymore. You've already done that for yourself. You don't need them to feel bad. Their regret will take care of that. You just need to keep growing, keep glowing, keep living free. You see, regret can be a powerful motivator, but it's not your responsibility to guide someone else through it. Everyone must walk through their own fire to understand what they've lost. If they truly learn, they'll change not for you, but for themselves. Even then, you owe them nothing. You can wish them healing and still walk in peace. You can send them love from a distance and still protect your boundaries. Because at the end of the day, your responsibility is not to their regret. It's to your growth. It's to your purpose. It's to your peace. You've come too far to be pulled back by the weight of someone else's lesson. You didn't heal just to become their comfort. You healed to become whole. So let them regret. Let them realize, let them learn. Their regret is proof that you mattered, that you left an impact. Your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did. But don't let that pull you back into the past. Let it remind you of your value, your strength, your evolution. Their regret is their mirror. Your healing is your freedom. Care enough, you are not responsible for teaching them what they should have learned when they had you. Your only duty is to keep walking in the peace you fought so hard to find. And as you do, understand this, your healing is not just your victory. It's your closure. Their regret is their lesson. And that lesson no longer has anything to do with you. There comes a time in your journey when you stop explaining yourself, not because you're bitter, but because you're finally at peace. You realize that peace is louder than any defense you could ever give. You understand that your silence holds more power than your words ever did. When you truly begin to heal, you stop chasing understanding from those who were never meant to understand you. You stop justifying your decisions to people who only see from the surface. You stop defending your growth to those still comfortable in their comfort zones. Because peace, when it settles deep in your soul, becomes its own explanation. You reach a point where you no longer need to prove your heart. You no longer need to make others see what you see. You simply live it. You embody it. And that becomes enough. When you are still wounded, you feel this constant urge to make others see your side, to make them realize how much you cared, how much you tried, how deeply you were hurt. You keep replaying moments, searching for the right words that might make them understand your intentions. Healing brings maturity, and maturity brings peace. You come to realize that peace doesn't demand explanation, it just is. When you begin to value your inner calm, you stop giving your energy to arguments that lead nowhere. You stop explaining your silence, your boundaries, your absence, because peace is not about convincing others, it's about protecting yourself. You understand that some people don't want to understand you. They just want to debate you. They're not listening to comprehend, they're listening to respond. And when you recognize that, you choose quiet over chaos. You choose stillness over struggle. You choose peace. Peace means no longer having to explain why you walked away. You walked away because it hurt too much to stay. You walked away because you finally chose yourself. You walked away because you were tired of being drained by people who mistook your loyalty for weakness. You don't owe an explanation for that. Same people who caused your pain don't deserve access to your healing process. Peace is knowing you can move forward without needing anyone's permission or validation. Peace also replaces explanation when you begin to understand that not everyone is meant to go where you're going. As you grow, your circle shifts, your habits change, your focus sharpens, and people start to notice. They say, and you've changed. And you smile because they're right. Instead of defending that change, you embrace it. You no longer explain your evolution to those who are still comfortable with your old version. You outgrew that chapter, and you don't need to justify the story you're writing now. When you live in peace, you learn the beauty of letting people think what they want. Let them misinterpret your silence. Let them create their stories. Let them assume. You're no longer here to fix false perceptions. You're here to live authentically, not to be understood universally. The truth is, people will always misunderstand what they can't relate to. They'll judge your healing because they haven't started theirs. They'll question your distance because they're addicted to chaos. They'll label your calmness as coldness because they don't understand discipline. But your peace doesn't need their approval. It needs your protection. There's something incredibly powerful about not explaining yourself anymore. It's not arrogance. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. It's knowing that you don't have to overtalk when you've already outgrown the conversation. It's knowing that your peace is not negotiable. You've spent too many nights losing sleep trying to make others see your value. You've wasted too much time re-explaining yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You've apologized for things that weren't even your fault. But once peace takes root, you begin to move differently. You realize that silence can speak volumes. Peace says, I don't have to argue with you to be right. Peace says, I don't have to prove my heart to those who couldn't see it. Peace says, I don't have to return to chaos just to explain why I left it. When you begin to live from that truth, everything changes. You start seeing that peace is not passive, it's powerful, it's strength under control. It's knowing when to speak and when to simply let go. You understand that the energy spent explaining yourself could be better spent building yourself. You no longer chase validation. You carry conviction. You no longer seek to be understood. You seek to be centered. Peace is not found in control. It's found in surrender. It's when you stop trying to fix what's broken and start focusing on what's blooming. It's when you stop replaying the story and start writing a new one. It's when you stop arguing about your past and start investing in your purpose. You stop explaining why you had to let certain people go. You stop explaining why you're no longer the same. You stop explaining why you protect your energy now. You realize you don't owe anyone access to your inner world. Your peace doesn't need permission to exist. As peace deepens, so does your discernment. You stop engaging in every battle you're invited to. You stop defending your decisions to people who wouldn't understand your journey, even if you drew them a map. You stop clarifying your boundaries, you just enforce them. You stop fighting for understanding. You start resting in self-assurance. Because when peace lives within you, chaos around you loses its power. There's a kind of freedom that comes when you no longer feel the need to explain your silence. You don't have to tell anyone why you didn't reply. You don't have to justify why you didn't show up. You don't have to prove why you've changed. Peace knows that growth requires space. Sometimes space is the loudest message of all. When people no longer hear from you, they begin to feel the absence of your energy. And that says more than any explanation ever could. You also learn that not explaining yourself doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself more. You've learned that inner calm is too valuable to trade for unnecessary conversation. You've learned that sometimes silence is the best response to chaos, confusion, and manipulation. You've learned that no matter how much you explain, some people will never see the truth until they're ready to. That's not your job to rush. Peace replaces explanation because peace speaks a language of its own. It speaks through your consistency. It speaks through your growth. It speaks through your happiness. It speaks through your silence. When you walk in peace, your life begins to communicate what your words no longer need to. The glow in your eyes, the calm in your presence, the stability in your spirit, all of it says, I'm no longer fighting battles that don't deserve me. So let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them think what they want. You've reached a stage where explanation feels like a distraction. You're too focused on your purpose to entertain confusion. You're too healed to reopen old wounds. You're too peaceful to justify your boundaries. You've learned that peace is not found in proving who you are. It's found in being who you are without apology. Peace doesn't demand to be understood. It simply exists. It radiates from the inside out. It becomes your quiet confidence, your gentle strength, your silent victory. You no longer walk around trying to prove you're good. You just do good. You no longer argue about your intentions. Your actions reveal them. You no longer defend your growth. Your glow confirms it. Peace replaces explanation, because when you're truly at peace, the need to be understood disappears. You understand yourself now, and that's enough. You've made peace with your past, your pain, and your purpose. You no longer need to explain why you protect your space, why you prioritize your healing, why you've chosen solitude over noise. You've found something deeper than approval. You've found peace. There is a quiet but undeniable truth about growth. It doesn't just change you, it changes what connects to you. Growth changes alignment. The more you evolve, the more your spirit begins to outgrow what once felt comfortable. The same people, the same places, the same conversations that once fit perfectly now start to feel too small for who you're becoming. It's not that you've become arrogant or distant. It's that your soul has expanded beyond the limits that once contained it. Growth shifts your frequency. Not everyone can move with you to the next level of that vibration. At first, it's confusing. You begin to notice that certain relationships feel heavier than before. The laughter doesn't sound the same. The energy feels off. The conversations start to drain you instead of inspire you. You wonder why things that used to bring you joy now leave you feeling empty. You start to question yourself. Am I changing too much? Am I becoming too different? But deep down, you know what's happening. Your spirit is evolving. The things that once matched your old energy no longer match your new one. Growth changes alignment. When you begin to heal, begin to see life through new eyes. You no longer find satisfaction in gossip, drama, or negativity. You crave peace, purpose, and authenticity. You don't want to be around people who only talk about others. You want to be around people who talk about ideas, dreams, and growth. You don't want to sit in rooms where your presence is tolerated. You want to sit in rooms where your spirit is celebrated. You no longer feel the need to fit in. You're finally ready to stand out. But here's the hard part. When growth starts to shift your alignment, you begin to lose people. Some walk away, some grow distant, some no longer understand you. And it hurts. It hurts to realize that not everyone is meant to stay. It hurts to feel misunderstood by people who once knew you best. It hurts to feel isolated while you're evolving. This pain is not punishment, it's positioning. Every time someone leaves your life after you grow, it's life making room for what truly aligns with your higher self. You can't carry everyone into your next season. Some people were meant for who you were, not for who you are becoming. Some connections were built on old versions of you. The one that tolerated chaos, the one that didn't know your worth. The one that confused loyalty with suffering. When you start setting boundaries, when you start saying no, when you start loving yourself out loud, threatens those who benefited from your silence. That's when alignment begins to shift. Growth changes your standards. You begin to expect more, not from a place of entitlement, but from a place of self-respect. You no longer accept inconsistency and call it effort. You no longer chase after people who make you feel hard to love. You no longer settle for half love, half truth, or half presence. You start to value peace more than company, solitude more than superficial connection. You'd rather walk alone in truth than stay surrounded by comfort built on lies. That's how growth changes alignment. It purifies what's around you until it matches what's within you. You also begin to notice that the things you desire start to change. You no longer crave attention. You crave alignment. You no longer chase validation. You chase purpose. You no longer want to be seen. You want to be understood. You don't need to care enough. You don't need to be everywhere. You just want to be where your soul feels at home. You don't want to impress anyone. You just want to impact. That's when you know growth is doing its work. It's not loud, but it's powerful. It's not quick, but it's real. Growth also changes how you handle conflict. You stop arguing to be right and start choosing peace. You stop reacting out of emotion and start responding with wisdom. You stop trying to prove your worth and start knowing it. You realize that every disagreement doesn't require your energy. Every insult doesn't deserve your attention. Every invitation to chaos doesn't need your attendance. You begin to see that protecting your energy is not avoidance, it's awareness. As you grow, you might start to feel detached from things that once defined you. Old dreams start to fade. Old habits start to dissolve. Old versions of yourself begin to die. And though it feels uncomfortable, it's necessary because growth requires shedding. You cannot step into the new while holding onto the old. You can't evolve while staying loyal to your limitations. You have to let go of what no longer resonates with your destiny. And yes, people will notice your shift, and not all will understand it. Some will call you distant. Some will say you've changed. Some will accuse you of forgetting where you came from. But you didn't forget. You just remembered where you're going. You didn't become distant. You just got closer to your purpose. You didn't change too much. You finally became who you were always meant to be. Growth changes alignment because your spirit cannot stay in spaces that no longer feed it. The same environment that nurtured your old self might suffocate your new self. That's why certain doors close suddenly. That's why certain connections end abruptly. That's why certain opportunities don't work out. Life will remove what's not aligned before it rewards you with what is. It's not rejection, it's refinement. When growth realigns your life, it also refines your focus. You stop chasing everything and start discerning what's worth your time. You start recognizing what truly matters. You don't have time for everything anymore. You have time for what aligns. You stop scattering your energy trying to please everyone, and instead, you start pouring it into your calling. You stop living to be liked, and you start living to be effective. Growth teaches you that alignment is not just about people, it's about purpose. When you are in alignment, everything flows differently. Peace flows easier. Creativity flows stronger. Opportunities flow naturally. You stop forcing things to happen because what's meant for you starts gravitating toward you. Alignment isn't something you chase, it's something you create by being authentic. The more you become your true self, more your environment adjusts to match it. But alignment requires courage. It takes courage to walk away from what's familiar. It takes courage to close the door on relationships that no longer serve your growth. It takes courage to say, I love you. I can't stay where my soul is shrinking. It takes courage to release comfort in order to embrace calling. Growth doesn't always feel good. It's always worth it. One day you'll look back and realize that every misalignment was actually divine direction. The friendships that faded, the opportunities that fell through, the places you no longer felt at home, all of it was pushing you toward where you were meant to be. Growth changes alignment so that your external world matches your internal transformation. You cannot live in peace while staying attached to chaos. You cannot walk in purpose while holding hands with distraction. So when people fall away, when seasons shift, when alignment changes, don't resist it. Honor it. Bless what was and release it with gratitude. You don't have to force anyone to understand your growth. You don't have to explain why you've changed. The ones meant for your future will align effortlessly with who you're becoming. The ones meant to stay will grow with you, not guilt you for evolving. Growth changes alignment, but it also reveals authenticity. It strips away illusions and leaves only what's real. And what's real will never be lost by what's true. So don't mourn the shifts, celebrate them. They are proof that you're not standing still anymore. You're moving, maturing, evolving, aligning. Growth may cost you comfort, but it will give you clarity. It may isolate you for a while, but it will connect you with purpose. It may make you lose people, but it will help you find yourself. That's what alignment is all about, living in sync with your truth, your calling, your peace. Because once you grow, nothing misaligned can stay. Is not loss, that is liberation. Forgiveness is one of the hardest lessons life will ever ask you to learn, but it's also one of the most powerful. Forgiveness isn't about weakness, it's not about forgetting, and it's not about pretending that the pain never happened. Forgiveness is freedom. It's the release of the weight that has chained your heart to moments that no longer deserve your energy. It's the decision to no longer be defined by what broke you. It's the courage to say, you may have hurt me, but you can't hold me. For a long time, you might believe that holding on to anger protects you. You think that by staying guarded, by staying resentful, you're somehow maintaining control. The truth is, bitterness is not power, it's prison. Every time you replay what they did, every time you let that betrayal replay in your mind, you give your peace away piece by piece. You think you're protecting yourself, but you're actually keeping the wound open. And an open wound can't heal. Forgiveness is not something you give because they deserve it. You give it because you deserve peace. You deserve to be free from the heaviness that comes from carrying other people's mistakes. You deserve to sleep at night without anger burning in your chest. You deserve to smile again without remembering the pain that dimmed your light. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. It's the final act of reclaiming your power. There's a misconception that forgiveness means reconciliation. It doesn't. You can forgive and still walk away. You can forgive and still choose distance. You can forgive someone and never let them back into your life again. Forgiveness doesn't mean restoring what was. It means releasing what's been weighing you down. It's saying, I release you, not because what you did was okay, but because I refuse to let it own me any longer. When you forgive, you start to heal in ways that words can't describe. The walls around your heart begin to soften. The fog in your mind begins to clear. The anger that once fueled your days starts to lose its power. In its place comes something pure, peace. Forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it changes your relationship with it. You no longer see yourself as the victim. You see yourself as the victor. You stop identifying with the pain and start identifying with the strength it built inside you. It takes incredible maturity to forgive someone who never apologized. It takes strength to forgive people who still blame you. It takes divine courage to forgive those who destroyed you while convincing others they were right. But that's the kind of forgiveness that sets you free. You realize that your peace is too precious to be held hostage by their guilt. You realize that their growth is not your responsibility. You stop waiting for closure because forgiveness is closure. There's a moment in healing when you stop asking, why did they do that to me? And you start saying, thank you for teaching me who I will never be. That's the shift. That's when you know forgiveness has started to bloom. It's not about excusing the behavior. It's about extracting the wisdom. The experience taught you how to recognize red flags, how to protect your energy, how to value yourself. Pain was your teacher. Forgiveness became your graduation. Forgiveness also frees your future, because when you hold on to resentment, you block blessings. You can't receive what's meant for you when your hands are still gripping what hurt you. You can't walk into new love if your heart is still bitter about the last one. You can't step into purpose if your spirit is still burdened by what someone said, did, or didn't do. Forgiveness clears the path, opens the door for new energy to flow. It invites joy back in. It makes room for peace to live again. Sometimes forgiveness is not a one-time act. It's a process. You might forgive and then remember. You might release and then feel the sting again. And that's okay. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's choosing peace again and again until it becomes your default response. It's waking up every day and deciding, will not let what hurt me control how I love, how I live, or how I see myself. Every time you choose that mindset, you become freer. Forgiveness also means forgiving yourself. We often hold ourselves hostage for things we didn't know then, but have since learned. Blame yourself for staying too long, for trusting too easily, for loving too deeply, for missing the red flags. You have to understand you did the best you could with the knowledge and the heart you had at that time. Be gentle with yourself. You can't heal while you're at war with your own reflection. The same compassion you extend to others, you deserve too. Forgive yourself for the times you settled for less because you didn't know your worth. Forgive yourself for the times you stayed silent when you should have spoken up. Forgive yourself for the love you gave that wasn't returned. Forgive yourself for being human. The moment you release yourself from guilt, you make room for grace. And grace is what transforms pain into purpose. When you forgive, your energy changes. The things that used to trigger you lose their power. You stop reacting to everything that once controlled your mood. You stop giving people the satisfaction of seeing you hurt. You become calm, grounded, untouchable. That's the freedom forgiveness gives you. You start living from a place of inner peace, not outer validation. You realize that revenge isn't your assignment, release is. You don't have to prove that karma is real. Life will take care of that. You just have to keep your heart pure and your spirit light. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means you remember it differently. You remember it without bitterness. You remember it with wisdom. You remember it with gratitude that you survived. You start to see that the pain didn't come to destroy you, it came to refine you. It shaped your compassion. It deepened your empathy. It expanded your understanding of love. It taught you how to set boundaries. It made you stronger, softer, wiser, and more resilient. And here's the beauty. When you forgive, you stop reliving the past and start living the present. You stop looking backward and start looking upward. You stop waiting for someone to right their wrongs and start creating rightness within yourself. You begin to realize that peace is not found in payback. It's found in letting go. You understand that forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It makes you unstoppable. People will wonder how you can be so calm after everything that happened. They'll wonder why you're smiling when you have every right to be angry. They won't understand that forgiveness changed you. It shifted your focus from pain to purpose, from resentment to resilience, from wounds to wisdom. You no longer need anyone to feel sorry for you. You no longer seek closure from those who hurt you. You no longer wait for them to regret. Because you've already released, forgiveness frees you, chains you from the past, unlocks your peace, and unleashes your purpose. It reminds you that your life is too valuable to be lived in bitterness. It reminds you that healing doesn't happen by holding on. It happens by letting go. It reminds you that your story isn't defined by what happened to you, but by what you chose to do with it. So forgive, not because they deserve it, because you do. Forgive because peace looks good on you. Forgive because freedom feels better than revenge ever could. Forgive because your destiny depends on it. You cannot walk in purpose while dragging pain behind you. Forgive because the future is calling. It's too bright to carry the shadows of yesterday. Forgiveness frees you. Not instantly, not easily, but completely. It's the sound of chains breaking. It's the weight leaving your chest. It's the light returning to your eyes. It's the peace that whispers, you made it and you're free. There comes a point in life when you realize that silence is not weakness. It's power. It's the calm confidence of someone who no longer needs to explain, justify, or prove themselves. It's the quiet authority of a person who knows that peace speaks louder than words ever could. Silence is not the absence of power. It's the presence of control. It is the strength that rises when you no longer feel the need to respond to noise, when you no longer seek validation from chaos, when you no longer allow distractions to pull you from your purpose. The world teaches you that the loudest voice wins, but that's a lie. Real strength isn't found in shouting, it's found in knowing when to stay still. Real power isn't found in reacting, it's found in restraint. When you matured through pain, betrayal, and disappointment, you learn that silence can be your greatest weapon and your greatest protection. You learn that silence allows you to rise above the noise that others drown in. There was a time you might have responded to everything, every insult, every misunderstanding, every rumor. You wanted to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to prove your worth. But one day, you realize that truth doesn't need defending. Your peace doesn't require an audience. You don't have to scream your value. Your growth will speak for you. Silence becomes your response, not because you don't care, but because you've learned to care about your peace more than people's opinions. When you choose silence, you choose to rise above. You stop explaining your decisions to people who were never meant to understand your journey. You stop engaging in battles that drain your spirit. You stop wasting energy trying to convince those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Silence gives you the power to preserve your energy for what truly matters. It becomes your way of saying, I'm not here to prove a point, here to live my purpose. Silence is also a teacher. In stillness, you hear what the noise tries to hide. You hear your intuition louder. You hear the whisper of God, the guidance of your spirit, the truth of your heart. You realize that clarity doesn't come from chaos. It comes from quiet. When you stop talking, you start hearing. When you stop reacting, you start receiving. When you stop chasing noise, you start discovering peace. People mistake silence for surrender, but silence is often preparation. It's in those quiet moments that you gather strength, that you refocus your mind, that you build resilience. Silence is where transformation begins. The seed doesn't grow in the storm, it grows in the soil, in the darkness, in the quiet. That's what silence does. It allows your spirit to grow away from distractions, away from judgment, away from the pressure to perform. Sometimes the best response to disrespect is none at all. Sometimes the best revenge is no reaction. Let people talk. Let them assume. Let them spread stories. You don't owe anyone a defense when your peace is proof of your growth. Silence shows that you've evolved beyond the need for validation. It says, I know who I am, and I don't need you to confirm it. That is true power. To know your worth so deeply that noise can't shake it. Silence also protects what's sacred. Not everything needs to be announced. Not every blessing needs to be shared. Not every plan needs to be posted. When you move in silence, you protect your purpose from premature exposure. You guard your growth from envy. You allow your results to do the talking. The loudest success stories are often written in quiet seasons, moments where you withdrew, worked, prayed, healed, and prepared behind closed doors. Then one day, the world sees the glow up, but they don't know the silence that built it. There is wisdom in holding your tongue. Every word you speak carries energy, and silence allows you to choose where your energy goes. When you stop reacting impulsively, you stop giving power to those who don't deserve it. You start mastering yourself. You begin to respond from purpose, not emotion. That's where true strength lies, in self-mastery. To remain calm in the face of chaos, to stay centered when others try to pull you off balance, to remain silent when provoked. That's strength that comes from within. Silence is not passive. It's powerful restraint. It's saying, I could, I won't. It's choosing maturity over ego. It's knowing you have the ability to respond, but the wisdom to know it's not worth it. There's a strength in silence that unsettles those who expect you to break. It confuses those who feed off your reaction. When you don't give them what they expect, you reclaim your power. You show them that their words no longer control your peace. Silence is also healing. When you withdraw from the noise of the world, you begin to reconnect with your soul. You start to feel what you've been avoiding. You face what's been buried. You heal what's been ignored. Silence gives you the space to grieve, to process, to release. It's not loneliness, it's alignment. It's where you find out who you are without the voices of others telling you who you should be. Many people fear silence because it reveals truth, but truth is what sets you free. When you stop filling the air with words, distractions, and noise, you begin to see clearly what needs to stay and what needs to go. You learn that not everything requires your reaction. Not everyone deserves your energy. Every situation needs your explanation. The more you practice silence, the stronger you become in discernment. You start to see through motives. You recognize energy, you detect manipulation. Silence sharpens your spirit. Silence is also spiritual discipline. It humbles the ego. It teaches you to trust divine timing. It reminds you that you don't need to control everything. You just need to stay grounded and faithful. When you stop speaking on every situation, you allow God to work. You allow life to unfold. You let karma, truth, and time reveal what words never could. Silence shows that you've stepped into a higher level of faith. Faith that you don't need to fight every battle because some victories come through peace, not through war. You'll notice something powerful when you start walking in silence. Peace follows you. Your energy changes. You start attracting calm instead of conflict. You stop being reactive and start being reflective. You no longer let small things disturb your inner stillness. You become unshakable not because life got easier, but because you became grounded in peace. When people try to provoke you, when they push your buttons, when they test your boundaries, remember, silence doesn't mean defeat. It means control. It means you refuse to let their chaos interrupt your calm. It means you're focused on what matters, not what distracts. It means you've learned that not every argument deserves your voice, and not every insult deserves your energy, and not every battle deserves your presence. There's a different kind of power that comes from silence. It's the power that doesn't need to be seen to be felt. It's the power that radiates peace, composure, and quiet confidence. It's the kind of strength that can walk through storms and not break stride, the kind of strength that can endure betrayal and still love, the kind of strength that can be misunderstood and still stay kind. Silence gives you that strength, not loud, not boastful, but unshakable. So learn to be still. Learn to stay quiet when the world demands your reaction. Learn to protect your energy when others try to drain it. Learn to walk away without saying a word, because silence isn't weakness. Silence is wisdom. Silence is peace. Silence is maturity. And most of all, silence is strength. It's the power to stand tall without shouting, to know without explaining, and to move without announcing. It's the quiet force of someone who has mastered themselves, who no longer seeks to prove anything, because their peace is the proof. Silence is strength, the kind that cannot be broken, only admired. There are moments in life that will break you, moments that will bring you to your knees, moments that leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and life itself. Pain has a way of stripping you down to your core, taking away the illusions you built, forcing you to face the truth you tried to avoid. It's uncomfortable, it's raw, it's lonely. Hidden inside that pain is a purpose so powerful that it can transform your entire existence if you let it. Pain is not punishment, it's preparation. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the disappointment, none of it was meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken something greater within you. Fire you walked through was not designed to consume you. It was designed to refine you. Every tear, every loss, every sleepless night was shaping you into someone wiser, stronger, and more compassionate than you were before. Pain introduces you to your power. You see, we don't find our purpose in comfort. We find it in struggle. Growth doesn't happen when life is easy. It happens when life challenges you to rise. Pain has a way of pulling things out of you that peace never could. It exposes your strength, your resilience, your faith. It teaches you how to breathe when the air feels heavy, how to stand when your legs tremble, how to hope when your heart is shattered. There's something sacred about the seasons of pain, because in those seasons, everything false begins to fall away. The people who were never meant for you drift off. The things that once defined you lose their meaning. The versions of yourself that no longer serve you start to dissolve. It feels like loss, but it's actually transformation. Pain peels away the layers that hide your true self. It forces you to stop pretending, stop performing, and start becoming real. Sometimes pain is the only language your soul understands when it's time to change direction. It's the divine interruption that says, you can't stay here anymore. Pain pushes you out of places that comfort would have kept you trapped in. It exposes where you've been settling, where you've been silent, where you've been small, and as much as it hurts, that's where purpose begins. In the breaking, in the letting go, in the surrender. When you start to see your pain differently, you begin to realize that it's not the end. It's an invitation. Every wound carries wisdom. Every heartbreak carries a lesson. Every betrayal teaches you who you are, and more importantly, who you're not. Pain teaches you to stop chasing people who don't value you, to stop ignoring your intuition, to stop pouring into places that never poured back. It teaches you discernment. It teaches you strength. It teaches you strength. It teaches you boundaries. The beautiful thing about pain is that once you heal from it, you no longer see it as an enemy. You see it as a teacher. The same storm that nearly destroyed you becomes the reason you can help others find shelter. The same heartbreak that once broke you becomes the reason you understand compassion at a deeper level. The same loneliness that once hurt you becomes the reason you can now enjoy your own company. That's what it means when pain becomes purpose. When what once hurt you becomes what now helps others. Care enough. You can't speak about healing if you've never been broken. You can't guide someone through darkness if you've never walked through your own. You can't comfort others with authenticity if you've never felt the sting of loss yourself. The people who carry light in this world are often the ones who've had to fight through their own darkness first. That's why your pain matters, because someone somewhere will one day need the story you're still living. There's a unique beauty in the scars you carry. They're not signs of weakness. They're evidence that you survived. They tell the world that pain came, but it didn't stay. That it hurt, but it didn't win. Every scar is a testimony that you didn't give up when you had every reason to. Testimony becomes your purpose, because your survival gives others permission to believe that they can survive too. Pain also teaches empathy, softens your heart. Before pain, you may have judged people easily, spoken harshly, or misunderstood the struggles of others. But after pain, you see differently. You understand that everyone is carrying something. You speak with more kindness. You listen with more patience. You love with more depth. Pain breaks your heart open so that love can flow through it more freely. That's how pain becomes purpose. It transforms you into a vessel of understanding and grace. There will be times when you still feel the ache of what you went through. Healing doesn't erase pain. It transforms your relationship with it. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start saying, "What is this teaching me?" You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your story and start seeing yourself as the author. Pain no longer controls your narrative. It becomes part of the wisdom that fuels it. You stop running from it and start using it. Purpose doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes your purpose is to break a generational pattern. Sometimes it's to raise your children with the love you never received. Sometimes it's to start a business born from struggle. Sometimes it's to share your story so others don't feel alone. Whatever it is, purpose is rarely born from ease. It's birthed through endurance. You had to go through what you went through so that you could carry something greater on the other side. Think about it. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is refined by fire. Seeds grow through dirt. So why would your growth be any different? Pain doesn't come to punish you. It comes to prepare you. The tears you cried watered the soil for your next season. The heartbreak cleared space for new love. The loss created hunger for meaning. Everything you thought was breaking you was actually building you. There will come a time when you look back and thank the pain. You'll thank the moments that didn't make sense because they led you to clarity. You'll thank the endings because they made room for new beginnings. Challenged enough, you'll thank the rejections because they redirected you to something better. You'll thank the silence because it taught you to listen to your own soul. Pain will no longer be a memory of suffering. It will be a monument of growth. When pain becomes purpose, it doesn't mean the hurt never happened. It means it no longer defines you. It means you took what was meant to break you and turned it into something that builds others. It means you found beauty in ashes. It means you discovered strength in surrender. It means you allowed your scars to shine instead of hiding them. That's the power of transformation, when your story of survival becomes someone else's reason to keep going. So don't despise your pain. Don't curse the process. Don't run from the breaking. Let it teach you. Let it shape you. Let it refine you. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that the pain you thought would destroy you was actually the bridge that carried you into your purpose. The same tears that once represented sorrow will one day represent strength. The same darkness that once scared you will become the backdrop that made your light shine brighter. Your pain was not in vain. It was the preparation for your purpose. Every moment of suffering was carving out space within you for wisdom, compassion, and power. Every wound was a doorway to a higher version of yourself. And now, as you stand healed, stronger, and wiser, you can look back and say with confidence, What once hurt me has now healed me, and what once broke me has now built me. Because in the end, pain doesn't define you. It refines you. It's not your enemy, it's your evolution. It's not your ending, it's your beginning. When pain becomes purpose, you no longer see it as something to escape, but something that elevated you to where you were always meant to be. There comes a time in your journey when you realize that healing is not just about getting over what happened. It's about rising from it. Healing is the quiet, unseen victory that takes place long before anyone claps for you, long before the world notices your glow, long before life feels easy again. Healing is the moment you stop fighting your past and start embracing your peace. It is the moment you decide that what once broke you no longer has permission to define you. Healing is victory because it means you survived what was meant to destroy you. It means the storm came, but it didn't sweep away your purpose. It means the pain pierced your heart, but it couldn't kill your spirit. Healing means you didn't just make it out. You made it through. You grew through what was meant to bury you. You transformed the same pain that tried to end you into the power that now sustains you. That is the essence of victory, not revenge, not validation, but restoration. For so long, the world teaches you that victory looks like winning the argument, getting the apology, or proving them wrong. But true victory doesn't need an audience. Healing doesn't need applause. Healing is the kind of victory that happens in silence. When you choose to forgive instead of fight, when you choose to move forward instead of looking back, when you choose peace over proof, it's the kind of victory that shifts your soul. Healing is not an event, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It's the long road unlearning, releasing, and rebuilding. It's the nights you cry and still wake up the next morning determined to keep going. It's the days you doubt yourself and still decide to show up. Healing is 1,000 small choices, choosing peace over pain, love over bitterness, growth over resentment. Each time you choose calm instead of chaos, you win. Each time you let go of what hurts instead of holding it tighter, you win. Each time you give yourself grace instead of guilt, you win. That's what victory looks like when you're healing. Healing means you've reclaimed your power. The same things that used to trigger you now meet your silence. The same people who once made you question your worth no longer have access to your energy. Healing is when you can look at the very thing that broke you and say, "You don't control me anymore." That's when you know you've won. When you can face your past and not flinch, when you can remember the pain and still smile, when you can speak about it without tears. That's victory. Healing also changes how you love. It teaches you that love starts within. You no longer chase validation from others because you've learned to validate yourself. You stop begging for attention because you've learned to give yourself care. You stop seeking closure because you've learned to create it. Healing gives you back to yourself. It restores your confidence, your voice, your peace. It shows you that you never needed someone else to complete you. You only needed to remember who you were before the pain. The truth is, healing is not easy. It's messy, it's slow, it's uncomfortable. It requires you to confront the things you've avoided, to sit with emotions you'd rather ignore. Face the parts of yourself that feel broken. But that's where the real transformation happens, in the discomfort. Healing asks you to dig deep, to forgive, to release, to trust again. It's not the easy road, but it's the most rewarding one. Because every layer of pain you release brings you closer to peace. Every old wound you close makes room for new blessings. Every tear you shed is a seed of freedom. Healing is victory because it breaks cycles. You stop repeating the same patterns, chasing the same kind of pain, falling for the same kind of hurt. You start setting boundaries where there used to be desperation. You start saying no where you used to say yes out of fear. You stop trying to fix people and start focusing on yourself. That's victory, not because life suddenly became perfect, but because you became stronger, wiser, and more grounded. Healing teaches you the art of surrender. You stop trying to control what's beyond you. You stop demanding explanations for everything that happened. You stop needing closure from people who never had the capacity to give it. Instead, you learn to trust divine timing. You begin to see that everything, even the heartbreaks and disappointments, had a purpose. Healing helps you release the need to understand and embrace the peace that comes from faith. You no longer ask, why me? You begin to say, thank you for using me. That shift is victory. Healing is also a kind of rebirth. The old you, the one who lived in fear, in pain, in anger, starts to fade. A new version begins to emerge, one who walks lighter, loves deeper, and sees clearer. You stop reacting from wounds and start responding from wisdom. You stop living in survival mode and start living with purpose. That's the moment you realize you're not who you used to be. You've evolved. You've been transformed by what tried to break you. That's victory in its purest form, quiet, sacred, and unstoppable. There will be people who don't understand your healing. They'll say you've changed. I challenge you to love enough, and they'll be right. You've outgrown the chaos they still live in. You've outgrown the arguments, the drama, the need to prove your side of the story. You've reached a place where peace means more than pride. You've learned that silence can be stronger than shouting, that distance can be healthier than confrontation, that letting go can be more powerful than holding on. Healing means choosing peace even when chaos is available. It means choosing gratitude even when you've lost much. It means choosing softness even after being hardened by life. Healing means realizing that the world doesn't owe you an apology for what happened, but you owe yourself a chance to move forward. You owe yourself freedom from resentment. You owe yourself a life that feels light again. That's what makes healing victory. It returns your power to you. Healing also means forgiveness, not for their sake, but for yours. You forgive so that your spirit can breathe again. You forgive so that your heart can love again. You forgive because you refuse to carry the weight of someone else's wrongdoing any longer. Forgiveness is the final act of healing, the moment you release the past so fully that it no longer has a grip on your future. Healing changes the way you see everything. The pain that once blinded you now becomes your teacher. The setbacks that once discouraged you now become your stepping stones. The losses that once shattered you now become the lessons that guide you. Healing transforms pain into wisdom, wounds into strength, endings into beginnings. You start to see that everything serves your evolution, even the hard parts. Victory isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like sitting in peace when you used to sit in pain. Sometimes it looks like saying nothing when you used to argue. Sometimes it looks like walking away instead of holding on. Sometimes it's just waking up one morning and realizing that your heart doesn't hurt like it used to. That's healing. That's victory. Healing doesn't mean you forget. It means you remember differently. You remember with gratitude instead of grief. You remember with compassion instead of anger. You remember with wisdom instead of wounds. And that's when you know you've truly healed. When the memory no longer hurts. It just reminds you of how far you've come. Healing is victory because it's the proof that love still lives inside you. Love for life, for yourself, for others. It's the evidence that no matter what happened, the light inside you never went out. You endured the darkness, but you didn't become it. You faced the pain, but you didn't let it define you. You broke, but you rebuilt. You fell, but you rose. You lost, but you found yourself. That is victory, not in the eyes of others, but in the truth of your soul. So when you stand in your healing, don't downplay it. Don't apologize for it. Don't hide it. You earned it. You fought for it. You bled for it. You prayed for it. You waited for it. You deserve it. Healing is your victory. The crown that can't be taken, the freedom that can't be stolen, the peace that can't be shaken. You are living proof that healing is real, that no matter how deep the wound, the heart can rise again. No matter how broken the path, purpose can still bloom. No matter how painful the past, peace can still find you. And that is the greatest victory of all.